get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
Actually, looking back, yeah, do you know what? I have changed my mind on that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you know, I wouldn't necessarily act in the way that I acted 10 years ago, because I can see how it would be construed in an offensive way. Not because I was a bad person then, but because, you know, culturally things have changed. And by culturally, I don't mean in terms of ethnicity, I mean in terms of, you know, just the way we do things. And actually you can change your mind on something. And without getting into, because that is a massive can of worms, but even politically, I grew up in I grew up in a household that was actually quite strong conservative, and actually there's a feeling from people in and around my wider family that no, we were brought up in this way, and although we've got ideas that contradict that, our political allegiance is here. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't need to be. Just why does it need to be? You know, why does it need to be there
It should be
when
what's right for you.
yeah, exactly. And you've got ideas that contradict that. I know
Yeah.
that you're a good person, and I know that fundamentally you want, you know, you want inclusivity, and you want, going back to what you said, fundamentally, the reason that, you know, we keep doing what we're doing and talking in positive ways and being positive is that fundamentally, I do believe that 99% of the population are good people and
Yeah.
do want people to succeed in life and do want people to have positive experiences in life. They do, fundamentally they do, even if they've got different ideas and allow themselves to be brought into a narrative of blaming other people for issues that are not those people's faults, you know. And I mean, fundamentally they are good people, and if you talk and speak to them for an hour, they'll go, actually, yeah, do you know what, you're right, it's not that subsection of society's fault that, you know, this has happened, or it's not that, it's actually just, you know, quite often our, you know, our enemies are not the people that are most like us. They're not. It's, you know, quite often, and I mean, we will have to do another session clearly, but we've spoken about the, you know, kind of the postcode lottery, not who's that knocking at our door, we're going to win £10,000, but you know, it is a lottery just because we were born
It
in a
really is.
particular postcode
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
a
Into a
particular
particular family. Yeah.
yeah, it really is a lottery,
Yeah.
and that is why we are where we are. And yes, we can change that to a certain extent, but there are also things inhibiting us from changing that.
What would you say? What does the word privilege mean to you?
So yeah, I mean, that does bring us on nicely to that. I mean, people get offended by that privilege. You know, I was brought up in a kind of working class background. Both my parents had to work very hard to give us what we needed, and therefore we were not privileged in that sense. But for me, the word privilege, and it comes back to actually people telling me that I shouldn't speak up about certain issues around diversity because, you know, I'm not from a kind of marginalized background. But for me, the word privilege, and whenever someone gets offended about it, I try and explain it to them in a way, again, not a patronizing way or to be patronizing, but no, your privilege is the fact that, yes, you might have had it tough in life, but you haven't had it tough in life based on, be it your sexuality, your sex, your gender, your ethnic background. You know, you've had it tough in life because of that postcode lottery, and because you were born into a working class background, or a background where, you know, you weren't privileged from a kind of financial standpoint. But that privilege is just having the privilege to live your life in an ordinary way, and not be discriminated against because, you know,
And
you're from a
not
certain,
have to work harder because
yeah,
of those factors. And
yes,
that's what it stands for me. I just think anybody who is having to work harder to do the same thing and for the same reward, or, you know, thinking professionally, but actually right across the
yeah,
board in life, anyone
yeah,
who's got to apply for more jobs because their name doesn't sound, you know, whatever, or anyone who is judged because of those strands,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. There's some
They're at a
really,
disadvantage right from the get-go.
yeah, there's some really, really good analogies that we've discussed previously, and we've discussed equity, inequality, and stuff like that, which, as I said, would definitely have to be on a different session. But one of the really, really good analogies, and I'll try and find it and send it to you. You may have seen it before, but there's an image of, again, I do use quite a lot of sporting analogies, but there's an interesting image of the race of life, and kind of in lane one there's a man, and basically he's only got 3 or 4 hurdles to jump, and then in lane 2 there's kind of a woman, and she's got these extra hurdles to jump in terms of she's got to navigate pregnancy, she's got to navigate, you know, there's kind of extra things that she has to navigate in her life. And then in lane 3 there's you know, there's a male of color, and he's got some extra hurdles, and then there's a woman, a person of color, who's got all the hurdles that the woman in lane 2's got to jump around pregnancy, but she's got extra hurdles to jump. So it's kind of just saying that, look, yeah, we're all trying to get to that finish line, but these extra hurdles are, you know, your privilege is the fact is the fact that you don't have those extra hurdles to jump. You've got some hurdles to jump, but you don't have as many hurdles as the woman in lane 2, and you don't have as many hurdles as, and it's just a really easy, simple analogy to explain to people. And you know, I've had people be offended before, go, oh, I don't need you to explain it to me. And it's like, well, you clearly do, because you know, you're ranting, be it on social media or in person, about this and about how, oh, I haven't had it easy. And it's like, well, maybe
I've had exactly the same conversations. And I remember somebody saying to me, well, do you think that and it's equated to a financial status. You know, people think, well, I grew up in a council estate and I've had to work hard for my money and whatever. But the doors were open for you to do that and to get out, and you know, the choices that were available for you were different.
Yeah,
and
completely.
It's recognizing that actually,
there was a study.
Go on.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, there was a study a while ago in America, and I've pointed a few people to it. I'll have to find it again. But effectively, it was a bit like a social experiment. And what they did was they sent out like 40 CVs or resumes, and that they were, many of them were identical, so they were in like groups of 5, say. So they would have a group of 5 identical resumes, but they would give them different names. So more a name that might identify with certain ethnicities. So it might be a more kind of Mexican sounding name, or a more you know, kind of South American sounding name, and then different names. But these CVs were identical, and the amount that actually got to interview in a more kind of white American sounding name was significantly higher. And, you know, there were kind of mixed reviews, and it's like, well, the CV is identical. You know, their working background is identical. Their educational background is identical. So how you can then tell me that there wasn't a bias, and actually the bank that was kind of involved in that experiment, they did it as a kind of internal audit check, as it were, to kind of check to
their
kind
own
of
processes,
check.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Check their own processes and check their own, and but it just shows that, you know, that bias that you think is not there does exist.
It's alive and kicking.
Yeah, and you know, and like, what we can do about that is try and educate people and say that, you know, you're literally, the first thing you've looked at is the person's name, and you know, you've filed that resume in the bin or whatever based on their name, whereas someone with an identical resume has got through. You know, and you can argue, oh well, it was someone in the department different who checked this one to who checked this one, and yeah, there will be an element of that, but you know, they used a good amount of data to check that, and it was clear that bias exists. And for me, that is privilege, in terms of, you know, your resume has not been put in the bin based on your name sounding like it comes from a background of ethnicity, when it was identical to someone else's. You know,
and there's an annual survey that's conducted in the UK about how many applications somebody with a foreign sounding name has to, and it's stupid. It's something like 3 or 4 times the amount of job applications before you even get shortlisted, if your name doesn't sound, you know, whatever. And that's why I don't like the word assimilation, which I said I would explain, because I almost now feel like maybe I assimilated too much. and this kind of trying to hide certain traits or hide certain elements of who you are in order to fit in or in order to be accepted unnecessarily. And I take responsibility for that, because that's something that clearly as an individual I must have at somewhere along the line, whether that was through school or wherever, somewhere along the line I had to work out, what do I have to change about myself to make myself fit? And then it becomes a habit. And then, you know, and I would guarantee that certainly people my age and maybe younger, I think we probably, as humans, we all do it. We all want to be liked and we all want to fit in and be accepted. But there's that extra step, I think, when you've got a cultural difference or there's something different about you, you just don't, you know, you don't want to highlight that. You want to be all in and invited to the party and to dance.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.